Okay, so here is my felt hat that I blocked on my Randall Allen hat block that I got. And last week I did my head size, as you know. I have my Randall Allen block sitting on one of the Randall Allen flange stands, and they kind of suck. I've talked to them about that. They just kind of roll around. I don't like them. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. So what I'm going to talk about is cutting this down. So if I want this whole hat is very round and I want to make a fedora. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this down so that I get rid of almost all of this lip here, all this turn down, right? Some hats you would want to keep this, but not this one. If I was making a Homburg has a rolled brim, and that would be very nice for it, but that's not what I want here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take a chalk pen, and I've lost it, so let me use this one. I can't tell where it is, so hopefully. What I usually do here at first is to just draw with chalk along the ridge. So I'm just feeling the edge instead of measuring. I just take an edge of a pencil and kind of draw along that. I hope you can see that line. Hopefully I can move this stupid thing together. And then I have either I cut along that line exactly, or I use that as my basis for cutting. So men's hats are usually described in websites as the width brim at the center front. So if it says it's a 2.5 inch brim, it means it's 2.5 inches at the front. This is a 2 3/8. And yes, a lot of hats go to 2, 2 1/4, 2 3/8, 2.5, 2 5/8, like every 1/8 of an inch, all the way up to like 3 1/4 sometimes, but most of the biggest ones are usually around 3, and the smallest ones are 1 3/4, and those are like little stingy brims. So this being 2.5 is fairly moderate for any kind of fedora. It's pretty normal. But if you want to coax it just a little bit more, 1/8 of an inch really does make a difference. So if you wanted to do that, you would measure from that. Use your tape measure or a ruler or whatever and measure another 1/8 of an inch from that. Now you're going to need to be careful. I did try again. I mean, I love Randall Allen, but his tools do need a little more sophisticated. I tried his brim cutter and it doesn't work. It didn't work very well on my men's weight felts. The ladies were a little better. I don't think the razor, and I can't seem to figure out how to adjust the depth of the razor. It doesn't seem adjustable, but I haven't had a chance to email him to find out if there's something I'm missing. But I found it not that easy to do. And what it is an embedded razor. I forgot to bring it over. Let me go get it. This is a brim cutter, and his is, of course, it's 3D, but there are really, existing wood ones, and, they're fabulous. And what you do is you put that hat against the brim, ideally when the crown is still, like the wooden crown is still in there, if not on the brim, at least the crown is still in there, and you run it around the hat. And there's a little razor in between these two things. There's a little razor in there, and it cuts through the felt. And you set how wide you want it. If I want a 2 1/8, a 2 1/4, 2 1/2, all of that sort of stuff. I can do the brim up to like a 5-inch brim and down to a 1-inch brim. And I just adjust to the length of it, put it in there, and slide with pressure. You still have to use some pressure to get that to go. But it didn't seem to want, it did a dent. I don't know if you can see, but there is a dent in my hat there. But it didn't go all the way. But it would actually help me to use my scissors and cut in a better, cleaner line. So even if it didn't go through, let me just go through this. it's going to give me a better cut because it's you know, like directed my scissors. So I would be able to cut a better line with there being that. But see, it didn't do all of it. It kind of came and went. So I did one a little shorter, like a 1-inch brim, and I played with this. Poor hat got cut up. But so I haven't quite figured out how to adjust his cutter so that it works a little better. But in the meantime, most of the time throughout my life, I have not had any kind of brim cutter. I just use my scissor and a chalk mark. And the scary thing about this is being steady. So use a pair of scissors that are good and strong, but not too heavy. I like my Ginger craft shears. I like them very much, but I also use my little tailor points because they're really very handy. But you want a scissor that isn't too weak, like a little embroidery scissor for trimming threads is not going to be big enough, and your dressmaker 12-inch shears are going to be too heavy. So, you know, yeah, stupid thing just fell apart. Anyway, so I'm going to start. I can't really see with the light's better for you than it is for me, but I've got this line. I'm going to go in at the back because if you're going to make a mistake, you want it always to be at the back. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to trim off almost all my rounding. Okay. Now this is for a raw edge. If you decided you wanted a welt, this is an issue here because I didn't get all the way to my welt. There's a big round there. My welt is here where the rope line is. That's where it's supposed to fold for a welt, but I don't want all of that. So there are brim curlers, again, out there that you can buy and make. They're expensive, but you can cut a hat raw with some steam and the curler, and you can get it to make a welt for you. There's under welts, there's over welts. You know, again, I bought one this year. I haven't quite figured out how to work it successfully, but in any case, we're all, hopefully, if you've got a men's weight felt, you're not doing a welt because you already learned how to do a welt. So hopefully your men's weight felt, most of you will just be cutting it raw or binding. All right, so cutting off most of the welt gets this out of your way and you can control your scissors better, okay? Save the rounding. Roundings are fabulous. You always keep them. You can make great things out of roundings. You can do self-trims. You can make flowers out of them. You know, not necessarily for your men's hat, but you can make flowers out of them. All right, so I hold this in my lap, which I can't really hold it the way I normally hold it and show you what I'm doing. But if there's a curve, it might be easier for you to follow it if you pop it up like this. I would find it easier to do it this way. And again, you want to draw your chalk line enough that you can see it and keep your scissors moving. Don't let your scissors come to a close like that. Then when you start, it tends to be raggedy there. So keep your scissors moving, 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 always taking the same amount. Try to draw this line as carefully as you can. If it helps you, if you can't follow the chalk line, baste in a line and just cut just a little bit outside or a little bit inside of it. But a baseline with thread might be a little easier for some of you to do. Whatever works, do it. So good strong scissors. And then you end as gracefully as you can. That's why it's at the back. All right. Now, what you need is sandpaper, which I unfortunately took all of it. I think I took all of it, but I think I'm going to try to see if I can find any, but to show you. But now I have my brim. And you can see this all curled up before, and that's how most brims are. Most brims are like blocked like that. They just are round all over. But here's a snap brim fedora. brim, okay? Down in the front. Oops, I don't think you can see that. Down in the front and up in the back. I've got my little snap brim. Now, I haven't done anything about my crown, but I'm going to use my steamer and I'm going to make a fedora out of it. I don't see, the light is very strong in here. See if I can change that a little bit. All right, that's my fedora starting to happen. Not done yet, needs a trim. It's a little tall in the crown, so I'm going to be playing with that with the steam. But first I want to get some sandpaper and sand up this edge. You can see, I don't know if you can see it close enough in the sketch, but in the light, but you know, there's a little raw area. It wasn't exactly smooth. And also, even if you cut perfectly, this edge looks cut. So you want to soften it so that it looks natural. It doesn't look cut. It looks like it was made that way. Okay? So you want to soften that edge. Now this is just a lightweight sandpaper. You're not going at it like it's a bad floor or something. It's just a lightweight, it's just fabric. You don't have to, it's not a war. But you need to buff that edge up so that it's nice and smooth. Once that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and send you another video of steaming the crown. We're not gonna do that tonight. I'm gonna just send you this. Okay? All right.